in the trial of Sean Diddy Combs. The 12-person jury entering its second day of deliberations earlier today. They sent multiple notes back to the judge, including one actually just this afternoon. As a reminder, Combs is charged with 5 criminal counts, 1 count of racketeering conspiracy, 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Combs has denied the allegations against him. So the second day of deliberations, and we have a partial verdict in the trial. As soon as we get new details, we'll be passing it along here to you on WFLA Now. Stand by. Let's try that again. Hello to our audience joining us here on WFLA.com and our WFLA social media platforms, Facebook Live and YouTube Live. JB here with you in the Stream Center. We have a live picture here in the Sean Diddy Combs trial because we have learned, of course, that the jury has returned a partial verdict in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial in its 4th week of testimony and the second day of deliberations. And now we have this partial verdict. As soon as we have that verdict, we're going to be passing it along here to you. Let's show everybody here a live picture from the courtroom, and we'll be back here momentarily with updates. All right, folks, let's fill you in on the latest as to what is going on here in New York City, New York. The judge in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial reaching a verdict, a partial verdict, and I'm going to explain exactly what that is, on the second day of deliberations, reaching a verdict on 4 of the 5 counts against Sean Diddy Combs. They're unable to reach a decision on the number 1 charge, really the top charge in this case, which is the racketeering conspiracy. Now, the judge in this case, the New York judge, indicating and really rather instructing the jury to continue deliberating on that charge. Now, the big question, of course, that everybody is going to have is that if they've come to an agreement on 4 of the 5 charges, what is the agreement? How do they see it? We don't know yet if there is unanimous unanimous decisions across all 4 charges, meaning is it guilty, 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 or is it not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, or is it guilty, guilty, not guilty, not guilty, some combination of guilty and not guilty verdicts? All we know is that a verdict has been reached on 4 of the 5. So there's going to be a lot of speculation, of course, that reaching a verdict on 4 of the 5 is going to be a guilty charge, or guilty verdict rather, on the 4 charges that have been decided upon by the jury, but that's not necessarily the case. We just know that the 12-person jury, they see it the same way on 4 of the 5, and we're just waiting for them to come to a decision on that 5th one, which is, again, racketeering conspiracy. So it was around 4 o'clock today that the judge in the case was told, they passed a note really in the courtroom here in this building that you see here on the right side of your screen, that the jury had reached the partial verdict on 4 of the 5 charges, and that there seems to be considerable disagreement because they were unable to reach a unanimous verdict on the racketeering conspiracy charge because of jurors with quote-unquote unpersuadable views on both sides of the argument. It's very interesting, the dynamic here. You have a jury that's been deliberating now for a total of 2 days, and they see it the same on 4 of the 5 charges. But this charge, unpersuadable views on both sides, means that they've dug in on their respective viewpoints on whether it's guilty or not guilty. Now, if you're just joining us, there's going to be a lot of questions as to what was the determination, what was the verdict on the other 4 charges. We're going to find out, of course, once it's read aloud in the courtroom. As a reminder, unlike many other court cases, a lot of other courtroom feeds, there is nothing that we're getting from inside the courtroom from a video standpoint. And that's just the jurisdiction and the rules of that particular trial in court. In court system, the Diddy trial is not being live streamed. So you're not going to be able to see inside the courtroom. In fact, up until this point, over the last couple of months, we have not been able to see inside. All we've had is illustrations from inside the courtroom. That's really been the only thing that we could use, in addition to just some articles as written by people who have actually been part of this trial and witnessing this trial. We really don't have much to go by based on what is going on in the courtroom today. It's very difficult to ascertain as to what's going on in there when we don't have cameras in there, unlike many other trials that we have seen unfold in recent years. This isn't Depp versus Heard, when not only did you have a shot inside the courtroom, you had multiple angles. It's not going to be anything like that. We're all at the mercy of the information as it trickles out from the courtroom and into the really press pool located outside. And believe me, you see the podium here on this shot. The podium itself, this makeshift podium set up with all the respective mic flags, there is an enormous contingent of media on the other side of the shot. All cameras pointed on the entryway and exitway to the courthouse in New York, where the Diddy trial is taking place. Now, I'll read some notes here from the Associated Press that Diddy's lawyers surrounded him at the defense table soon after the note was sent over to the court. That's the note, of course, indicating the partial verdict had been reached. At one point, one of his lawyers stepped away. I'm just trying to, figure out exactly what's going on here. So, a lot of the reaction is coming out as to a lot of details are now emerging as to what Diddy's reaction was to partial verdicts being reached, and based on what we're hearing, Diddy was quite glum in the courtroom when the actual note was passed along indicating that a partial verdict had been reached. Can't imagine what's going through his mind at this particular moment. So let's read here. The assistant U.S. attorney in the case suggested that the judge give the jury a modified version of what's known as an Allen charge, instructions encouraging them to keep deliberating after reaching an impasse. So, in essence, they are being encouraged to move forward with deliberations. Clearly, there's a difference of opinions. What has been described as unpersuadable views, and really an Allen charge trying to break through in some way. If it's so interesting, if both sides here in this particular case are dug in on guilty or not guilty, it's it's going to be really interesting who is going to be persuaded to do something different. Yeah, sure. I would love to have. We're going to try to bring in some more WFLA personalities in here to join me. And also, too, another thing that we don't know is just how many holdouts there are. Is it 6 on 6? So with a federal criminal case, yes, you have 12 jurors, right? So we don't know what the split looks like. Is it 11 against 1? Is it 9 against 3, 7 against 5? What the split looks like is particularly interesting. Let's bring in my colleague. And Ty, I'm going to have you sit over here. Actually, no, you can sit directly across from me. Let's do that, because I think we're going to have some other guests join us here in the Stream Center, and everybody. We'll welcome in Ty Russell here in a moment. Let's go back here to the live picture. Ty, it's good to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate you.
So your latest on now this news that a partial verdict has been reached in the Diddy trial.
Yes, and it's no surprise, according to legal experts here, that the jury is still kind of asking questions and deliberating on the racketeering aspect, since that's so difficult to navigate, especially after Cassie's testimony. I know that they definitely wanted to review more of that transcript and listen to more of that testimony there, because everybody saw that video, that security camera video of Diddy being shown beating Cassie in that hallway at that hotel. And so that was a key part of this whole court case, of her testimony, of course. And so it's no secret that the jury has to deliberate a little bit more to try to get a better understanding of whether they can convict him on that count.
Yeah, what's interesting is that while everyone's waiting now, it's interesting because we have a verdict on 4 of the 5 based on the note that was passed to the judge in this case, but we have no indication whatsoever how long it's going to be until or whether or not if they're going to be able to come to a determination on that charge. I mean, it's the top charge in the case.
Yeah.
It's the one that carries the most weight. It has the most implications associated with it. So could this extend into tomorrow?
Well, I know that Diddy's attorneys, along with federal prosecutors, they were a bit, according to the Associated Press, they were a bit frustrated that the jury didn't reach, a decision on all of the counts. And so they definitely wanted the jury to go back and deliberate more. They want an actual decision, because that, at least for Diddy's lawyers, that'll lean on whether, to appeal all the accounts or just one or just some. So they definitely, all of them, want an actual decision from the jury. But it's unclear how long it will take, because trying to convict someone of a racketeering charge, that takes a lot of research, a lot of listening. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, the entire trial comes down to, in essence, breaking through on this one particular charge, and everyone's now waiting with bated breath, just wanting to know what the outcome of this very expensive trial and a very long list of accusations is going to be, whether or not Diddy is going to jail for a very, very long period of time, or whether or not he is going to be have his name cleared. Obviously he has vehemently denied all allegations against him. So we really are in the. It's interesting that we know that a verdict could be imminent, but we know so little at the same time.
Yeah.
That's really something that that makes this particular. Partial verdicts don't get reached very often. It's usually a verdict comes down, you get your verdict, it's read in the courtroom, the world reacts, and that's basically it.
I know a lot of these journalists are probably going to be chasing down the members of this jury to try to get an understanding of what went on in that deliberation room. How did you guys come up with this set first and not the racketeering? What that conversation is like? There's a lot that, of course, we're going to learn after this, if any of the members of the jury speak out, which I assume at least one or two will. I assume.
Again, so the note saying, I find this interesting, Ty. Unpersuadable views on the racketeering conspiracy, the racketeering charge. So if the jurors have unpersuadable views, that to me means that the jurors can't be persuaded. So the judge is hoping now with as I understand it, and it was an Allen charge being read out, basically saying, no, it's not unpersuadable. Try to figure it out.
Yeah.
Find a way to figure it out. What happens if they can't? What happens if they can't figure out the fifth charge?
I just wonder, because it seems like the judge definitely wants a decision. I just wonder if they can't, how long will the judge accept them being back in that deliberation room saying,
how patient is that judge? Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see. But they have to understand, and I'm pretty sure the judge and lawyers, they all have to understand. I mean, this whole racketeering charge, I mean, that there's a lot to it. It's very complicated to average people, so it's a lot that they have to dive into. And so that's why some legal experts are saying, it's understandable that they do have to ask for more things from the court to be able to process and go through that charge. However, of course, Diddy and everybody else, they all want an actual decision. And, it could be made and it could not. And it'll be interesting to see what the judge does from here on out. Because it is pretty late in the day. And if they couldn't reach a decision on that one right now, it'll be interesting to see if they'll be able to come up with one tomorrow morning or how long they'll stay today.
This is purely speculating.
Yeah.
But you have to imagine the jurors are, if they have sat through this for the last couple of months.
Oh, yeah.
And now you have 2 full days of deliberating, and they see it the same way for the 4 of the 5 charges. And then the 5th charge, they just can't see eye to eye. It sounds as if, to me, that the jurors have likely reached just the end of this from an energy standpoint.
Yeah.
Like they are ready for this to be over.
Yeah.
And if they returned an unpersuadable view note to the judge, it sounds like they're ready to go home.
Yeah. Some people have dug their feet in the sand and they're like, listen, my decision is not changing. So.
Okay, interesting. The judge is now bringing the jury back into court after taking input from both the prosecution and the defense on what to tell jurors in response to their announcement that they are deadlocked on a single count. The prosecution's suggestion is something less than a formal Allen charge, instead a response urging the jury to continue deliberations. The judge seems to favor that proposal. There's also discussion on logistics for what happens if the jurors do not have a decision by Thursday, as the court is closed on Friday for the 4th of July. So it looks like the jury is now being brought back in after the prosecution, the defense, everyone weighing in, and it sounds as if the next steps are taking shape as we speak. That, according to NBC News, by the way, getting a lot of different updates from a lot of different places. Look, so in the we don't. I was mentioning this earlier, Ty. We don't have cameras in the courtroom, so we can't like hit a button here in the Stream Center and go live inside the courtroom.
Yeah.
We can't see all this. We're at the mercy of courtroom reporters that are in there and are feeding back information to the pool of reporters outside and getting it out to their respective outlets. And that's all we have. So
it is tough covering federal court. Of course, we do that, here. I did that covering a case just last week. It's tough not having cell phones or computers, laptops inside federal courtrooms because they just don't allow that. And so it takes some time for us to get information because every network has some dedicated people inside those courtrooms, and then they have to run out, take an elevator down, and then leave. Bypass the security there, and then that's when we are informed about everything that's happening upstairs inside that federal courtroom.
So the panel of jurors deliberated for 5 hours on Monday. They did not reach a verdict. Diddy is facing 15 years in prison to life in prison if he's convicted on all charges.
Yes. It's a panel of 8 men and 4 women for the jury.
And we don't, so that's, I was mentioning right before you walked in, we don't know the numbers behind the deadlock. We don't know if it's 11-1 or 6-6.
Yeah.
And that's an enormous component here. If it's one holdout, that's a big deal. Now I don't think that it mentioned a plural in the note. Like, it says unpersuadable views on both sides.
Yeah.
So maybe it is an 11-1. I know that I'm really getting granular here, but
I know that Monday, yesterday, the foreperson sent a note to the judge, according to the AP here, complaining that there was one juror who they were concerned about that juror who couldn't follow the judge's instructions. Now, that was yesterday, and that was just the foreperson sending a report about one person. But yes, for this latest note, it just seems like it is more than just one person that's holding out on the racketeering.
If you're just joining us, folks, Ty Russell, JB Buno here with you in the Stream Center. We're monitoring news, of course, that the jury has reached a partial verdict, 4 of 5 charges in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. The top charge of racketeering is the one that's being disputed right now after the jury returning a note to the judge that said that there are unpersuadable views on both sides that is preventing them, in essence, from reaching a verdict on the 5th and final charge, and the one that's, of course, most consequential. And so it seems as if the judge is having none of it and instructing the jury to continue deliberating in the hopes that they can have a breakthrough and maybe someone can find a means to convince the other side that guilty or not guilty is the appropriate decision on that respective charge. Now, look, will this extend into tomorrow? We'll find out. But tomorrow would be a pretty big day. And then Thursday, of course, being a pretty big day because it's the final day.
Before courts close.
Before courts close on Friday for the 4th of July. We'll be back in 30 seconds, folks.
that black woman working with you guys. We're working together. But after what? After what?
Mhm.
All right, and here we are back with you live here in the Stream Center, folks, and we now have a full panel and introducing here the Rooted in Progress team of Deanne King and Terrence Middlebrooks joining WFLA political anchor Ty Russell and me, JB Buno, here with you in the Stream Center. And here's, guys, video that we have now of family members of Sean Diddy Combs entering the New York City courtroom right before our live stream began, arriving upon the news, making it out of the courtroom that a partial verdict has been reached. Guys, are we hearing anything? I'm sure phones or text alerts are just kind of ringing off the hook here, right?
Yeah, at this point, and good evening, everybody. It's so awkward to say. Like, it's always the morning time. Like, all right, but something like this will definitely bring it back into work. I think when it comes to just our coverage and hearing from various lawyers, various attorneys, reporters who are actually inside of the courtroom who I have reached out to, trying to wait to hear back, as I could imagine. They're a little busy right now getting all of that information in. I think what we're waiting to hear especially is the full verdict. What happens now that we've received this partial verdict? And it goes back to Matthew Russell Lee, Terrence, that journalist who we had on Rooted in Progress, who talked about how the jury's gonna have a really hard job to do.
Yeah, right. You know, Matthew has been in the courtroom ever since day one, and so he was very good at giving us play-by-play. Actually, if you don't mind me using that language, and was just talking about how the defense, their tactics, the prosecution, and their tactics, and to see where we are here right now, it's kind of up in the air. I mean, it could either go on both sides of way this thing turns out. Yeah.
All right, so we have a bit of breaking news that just came in a moment ago from NBC News. Jurors have been dismissed for the day as the judge urges them to keep an open mind, sending them home with the message of keeping an open mind as deliberations are expected to continue tomorrow, Wednesday, July 2nd. And really the only thing now that has to be decided upon is that fifth charge, the racketeering charge. And so a jury will... the jury itself will not be returning a complete verdict tonight, and that's why you see the reporter there in the center of your screen. They were preparing for a press conference. She grabbed her microphone off the makeshift podium outside the courtroom here, and the word is starting to make it out now that there will not be a full verdict announced in the courtroom tonight.
I'm looking at the feed from that court reporter, Matthew Russell Lee, and he's actually giving a play-by-play on Diddy's reactions. And so he was brought in, he stood with his hands in his pockets as his attorney spoke to him. His lawyers come in, they huddle around him. He's been seated. This was at the time 4:45. Sean Combs rubbing his eyes, one with his thumb, the other with his index finger. Can we appreciate our journalists?
That's
Yeah.
quite the
Yeah.
detail.
Yeah.
That's a lot of detail.
Like
by
the
the finger.
details.
When there's no
Yeah.
cameras
Yeah,
in
you
there,
have to.
you know,
Yeah.
the people want details.
Yeah, yeah. And so it looks like he seems to continue to have his head down, resting his head on his right hand, which probably signifies or is signaling rather how he kind of feels right now. Is just, I could only imagine, you know, you hear that there's a partial verdict in and you're like, what does that mean for the rest of my life? You know? So that's interesting. But yes, I just saw Matthew's note where they did just send everybody home. So I guess we'll see what happens after this.
Yeah, and a lot of people in the chat are asking, okay, what's the verdict on the 4 of the 5 charges? We do not know. It has to be a complete verdict for it to be announced in the courtroom, and until they come to a decision on the 5th one, we won't know the outcome of the other 4, which is, of course, what everybody wants to know.
Yeah.
Are you guys surprised that I think they deliberated for over 13 hours or something like that, if I'm not mistaken, 13 hours and 11 minutes. Are you surprised that they're at least halfway with the verdict, or did you think it was going to take longer or more than halfway?
For racketeering, I would think it'd take longer. And this is exactly why it is taking, I think, so long, because that's a hard charge to just like go through, because usually it's used in, you know, organized crime and drug cartel cases.
Right.
That's when we're really hearing about RICO and racketeering. For this sex trafficking trial here, you know, it's like, oh, so the juries, the members of the jury, they have a lot to process and go through.
The word that came to mind, I thought this was quite theatrical. It's almost as if they're setting the stage now for, like, hey, 4 of the 5 have been announced, or excuse me, or have been reached, and now we're just waiting on the 5th. And so,
I mean, don't you think this whole trial has been?
That's exactly
theatrical?
my point. It's very on brand for the entirety of the trial, in
Right.
that it's come to this point now, this cliffhanger moment towards the very end, and I can't imagine what's going through Diddy's mind right now. I mean, just waiting for that one final charge to be determined.
You go through the tweets that the reporter is literally saying he's sitting there with his head in his hand and just waiting. So I literally can only imagine. But what we're going to do, Matthew Russell Lee, again with Inner City Press, for those who haven't tuned in to Rooted in Progress, we're actually going to have him on at 7 p.m. tomorrow, where he can break down everything that's been happening inside of the courtroom. So make sure y'all tune in for that, for I guess a special edition.
Yeah, and I wonder how Cassie is feeling,
Yeah, absolutely.
you know,
Yeah.
with all of this as well, because
All the victims.
Yeah, all the victims. Yeah, they're leaning definitely, I know, on Cassie Ventura's testimony for this RICO charge. So it'll be interesting to hear and see how she's feeling and doing, along with everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of those who testified, I mean, you've heard them say that they haven't spoken a word of this since the actual events taking place, and so, you know, I'm sure some of them probably fear for their life if this man was to walk, you know. So I mean, that's a whole nother ball game, you know.
Within itself.
Yeah, within itself, absolutely.
Yeah.
Deanne, Terrence, before you guys walked in, Ty and I were talking about the unpersuadable views description. That's the way it was described. The note that was passed to the judge, that the jurors had really dug into their respective sides and they could not be persuaded one way or the other. It'll be fascinating to find out tomorrow if a night's sleep, going home, if that changes any perspectives. And because let's play the hypotheticals for just a second.
Okay.
Let's say it's 9-3. We're just gonna play here. That's not the case, but let's just say it's 9. Let's say it's 9 in favor of one way and 3 in favor of the other. Even if 2 of those holdouts go home tonight, wake up the next morning and have a change of heart, if one person can't be persuaded, you need the unanimous verdict.
Right.
So the judge is still going to be in the same situation tomorrow, unless the 2 that change their minds the next day, heading into, you know, obviously tomorrow being Wednesday, are able to then convince the singular holdout. Again, there's a lot of different dynamics at play.
I'm shocked they're not being sequestered. I'm shocked that they are allowed to go home.
Right.
Because they are, you know, subjected to mama calling and talking smack.
Turning the TV on.
Turning the TV on, scrolling on social media, because it's not like with a scroll, you can avoid.
Right.
All right, so we have some
anything.
folks here now that are now leaving the courtroom here. Let's just kind of listen. We'll bring up audio here full.
Dirty! You're no good! You're no good! You're no good! Crucify you!
This is live audio, folks. There might be some language that gets thrown out here, so viewer discretion is advised. We're going to now see a lot of the reporters that were in the courtroom.
She's like, listen, I'm just here to do my job.
Yup.
Don't come over here.
So let's just watch here as more and more people make their way out for the day.
Be interesting to see when his attorneys, when the defense comes out, the defense attorneys.
We're taking pictures of you. You're taking
Right.
pictures of us.
Taking in the moment at this time.
Every angle being covered. Also, just clearly just a nasty day in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like they're in Florida at this point. I think it's interesting, and I think what has also kind of made this case just a little bit more unique is the fact that there aren't any cameras allowed inside. So it's just like you're that much more intrigued by what's happening inside because you can.
Oh, here we go.
I don't know. Oh, here we go.
Let's go full screen.
Nicole, get out of the ring, Nicole. This is Nicole Westmore, y'all. She's the one that took Bono with peppers and onions. Look at this man right here. Such a gentleman in the rain. Such a gentleman. Such a gentleman. Xavier Donaldson. Such a gentleman in the rain. Such a gentleman in the rain. There you go.
You think Diddy's gonna walk?
Yo, shout out to these queens.
You think Diddy's gonna walk?
They think that they not gonna be no thing, be a purple. Not bad for them. We outside. Yeah, the camera coming out right now. Watch out, Josh. We gotta watch out. Cars is leaking people down.
So pretty soon we will definitely see mom and family
Yeah, the family.
coming out.
Unless, some courthouses will have
Secret
yeah.
entrances and exits.
More-
They've been going in and out of
Yeah,
this
they've
one
been
though.
going in and out of the main.
The main
door.
entrance.
couldn't help but notice that the boom mic lost a wind guard there.
Yes.
The fuzzy and nice enough to pick it back up and return it to the photographer who lost it.
Right.
Those are more expensive than they look, by the way, folks.
Well, and then just the crowd outside the paparazzi that's gathered around this entryway. And I'm assuming it's probably, continues down the street as well. It just goes to show you how many people are invested in this case.
Yeah. So they have line sitters. Have y'all, Ty and
Oh,
JB,
yeah.
heard about this?
Yeah, we heard about it.
So we had Megan Cuniff, who's very popular on X and social media, who tracks a lot of high-profile cases. And Megan actually just left New York last week when court wrapped up last week. And she was paying $200 to $300 a day
Oh, wow.
to get a spot in line to actually get into the pool where the public could sit inside of the courtroom.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
and you got to think about this. People have been doing this for 30,
Yeah, I was
34,
about to
35
say,
days.
it's a lot
Wow.
of days. A lot
Man,
of
they-
That's a lot of money.
They cutting a check.
Yeah.
Man, I could
I
have
could've-
took a month off.
a lot of money.
I could have took a month off. And guess what time she was actually getting to the courthouse? 2 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
Paying over $200 to get a spot in line. Yup.
2 o'clock in the morning.
I imagine hopefully her company paid for that. but-
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
I don't know if you heard that audible sigh there from one of the photographers saying, "Come on," because I think that you can see in the building there that a lot of the bigger names associated with the case itself are in the lobby, and they're having some conversations. So it's a dreary day out there, and the media clearly getting a little bit impatient as they wait for the some of the attorneys to, and perhaps family members too, to make their way out of the courthouse.
That's how we all get. I was doing that last week outside of a federal courthouse. I was like, oh, come on.
Well, in the coverage of this case, I think Deanne and I and the Root and the Progress team are pretty antsy on getting a verdict.
Listen.
You know, so we've all been kind of sitting here twiddling our thumbs, and what was that, Matthew? How you described in the courtroom? So we're all anxious on this verdict. So
let's see who comes out these doors next.
Just going to share some perspective in having covered a lot of court cases. There is, in my look, based on experience, there is zero chance this makes it to end of day Thursday. The judge with the holiday coming up.
He said that from the jump.
Yeah.
He said we wrapping this up by 4th of July.
Yeah. So it will not extend to that point. And so Thursday, no doubt, is going to be like a last-ditch Hail Mary effort. But really, tomorrow's probably the key day.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's the key
tomorrow's
day.
the day.
So this is a very interesting case, you know, to your point, JB, of just putting that timetable on wrapping this thing up. So basically saying no matter where you are with the prosecution or, you know, defense and their theory, we're wrapping this thing up before July 4th holiday weekend, you know. So to me, it's kind of a very odd statement that you would want to put a time stamp on this, or not a time stamp, but a deadline on this.
Yeah, you don't want a mistrial. A mistrial is, I mean, and that's, it's just a tremendous, it basically means that the entire process was nearly for nothing over the, you know, because a jury could not reach a verdict, a unanimous verdict on all 5 charges. And so you're hoping, of course, that they at least are able to, that our law and order system in this country is able to produce a decision of some kind.
Yeah.
And that it's the right outcome, as more and more people are now starting to make their way out.
I'm hearing from one of our attorneys, and I asked if a partial verdict in a case like this is normal, and she said not at all.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I can't think of a time where
This has
a
happened.
jury returned a partial verdict. I've heard juries expressing doubt as to whether or not a unanimous verdict can be reached. But for a jury, a 12-member jury in a federal case, to indicate to a judge that they're 4 out of 5 there, but not there
There's
all the
his
way on the
son.
5th. Yeah, here we go.
comes
Here's
his
family.
Oh, there's his other son. There's
Yeah.
the twins.
Bringing up audio full.
Excellence. Yeah, black excellence. It's all about us. We don't have to do that. Don't sit anymore. We don't have to do none of that. We have to icon of everybody. That's well wishes for y'all. Keep on doing your thing.
That's how you do it. Good job. Yeah. Get her in the car.
That's how you get her in the car.
About the law. The Jewish talk about love. The women of black men talk about love is a problem.
Look at this queen. Coming through glowing. And she glowing.
Why are we like this?
You think he's gonna walk? Or you think he's guilty?
She's shining. Got fire outside. Everybody outside.
Someone has asking that question to the children, do you think he's guilty?
When you say we, we're talking like journalists.
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
Have a good day, y'all. Have a good day. Peace, y'all. Peace. Have a good day, y'all.
I will say the bulk of the commentary was positive.
Seems like, a lot of supporters of Diddy's out here, and people who support Diddy's family.
My phone's still popping out, but my mama ain't leave yet. My mom ain't leave yet.
All right, I'll bring down some audio here, some of that sound coming in from New York, so that as you were saying, because I don't think the audience could hear you guys clearly.
Oh, I was saying that, I mean, it seemed like majority of the commentary was pretty positive, which is nice. At least for the kids, they're kids.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
You mean it was clean?
Yeah. They were positive. They were uplifting.
Not typical New York style.
Yeah, no, they were calling them black queens.
Yeah,
You're beautiful. You're black excellence. Those were some of the things that some of those folks were saying. So I mean, that's nice to hear, or I'm sure they felt at least that was pretty nice.
Yeah, no expletives is a good thing.
Yes, also that.
For our purposes with live streaming this event.
Yeah, for sure. So, yeah, it looks like that would have been all of his family who walked out, from what I could see.
If you're just joining us, folks, Terrence Middlebrooks, Ty Russell, Deanne King, JB Buno here with you in the Stream Center. The jury has been sent home after a partial verdict has been reached in the Sean Diddy Combs federal trial in New York City, New York. 4 out of 5 charges received a unanimous verdict, a verdict that we do not know as of now. We don't know if it's guilty or not guilty across all 4, or if there's a mix and match of guilty and not guilty in there. All we know is that 4 out of 5 were unanimous, and that the note that was passed along to the judge indicated that there was quote-unquote unpersuadable views on both sides of the argument on the 5th and final charge of racketeering, which is, of course, the most consequential charge. Diddy facing 15 years to life in prison based on the outcome that could be reached tomorrow, maybe Thursday, but it will not be reached today, as once again the jury sent home here in New York City, New York. A look here at the public that has been lined up outside
in the rain.
Members of the media and someone's feet. Look, it's hard work being a photographer, and if you're resting to point down at the ground a little bit, that's pretty common.
And if the key people have already left, or at least if there's a little break, you'll see them take a little rest.
Yep. But you can clearly see that there are still some folks in the lobby. The media hasn't left yet because not everybody has exited. And look, people are asking, why are you guys still live streaming? Well, there's always the chance that somebody associated with the case does come out and look, the media will be asking questions as they're walking to their respective vehicles or heading to the parking lot. And maybe, just maybe, you never know, they could say something. Yes, Ty, they could speak. So we're waiting for the entire courtroom contingent to make its way out before we end our live streaming coverage here.
Yeah, I would say I think I've only seen Westmoreland from, I believe, the prosecution side come out. The other folks, it's so hard because we don't have visuals.
Well,
of
and you've
this
only
court
seen
case.
court drawings.
So we don't know what these people like.
Yeah.
Diddy has talking about a 12 jury. He got a 12-man team.
Attorney team. Yeah.
And so did the prosecution. I feel like even going through reading through what's happening in the courtroom, I'm like, it's a different attorney almost every time with every witness.
All right, looks like some more of the courtroom contingent making their way out. Let's listen in here live.
Here comes his mother.
Was that his mom? Yeah.
Full audio.
Sir, come on. Thank you.
There you go. I love you, Miss Combs. Love you. Free Diddy. Free Diddy, Miss Combs, right? Free Diddy. That's right. Free Diddy. That's right. That's right.
If you look in the background there, you can see all the network news correspondents for their live shots as the mother of Sean Diddy Combs making her way into the black SUV where it will depart the courtroom here. And as the media waits for more and more people to come out of the courthouse, I want to ask you guys, the Rooted in Progress team here with us in the Stream Center, Deanne King, Terrence Middlebrooks, you guys have done multiple episodes on the Sean Diddy Combs trial. How challenging has it been for you guys to cover and have a productive dialogue on and try to explore this and ultimately really try to do justice to a trial that has so many different moving parts and has been so complex from the very beginning?
Yeah, I mean, it's, man, I guess with the amount of experts that we've had on our show and really weighing heavy on their expertise has really helped us a lot. Deanne can, you can attest to that,
I think when you think back to our very first episode, right, when it came to when the lawsuits just came out, and charges were actually coming out when it came to Diddy. This was more, we originally started our coverage with more of what is this impact to the community?
What does this look like?
Because Diddy is such a huge figure, especially in the black community, not just in music. We're talking about in fashion. We're talking about in the culture as a whole. He's done so much. So when I think about how this story has progressed, i.e. Rooted in Progress, it literally started from talking about a mogul who a lot of us you grew up on, grew up with, listening, wearing his clothes, watching his shows, all of these things. And then it got heavier and heavier. And we were able to get courtroom analysis from reporters who are literally inside with Diddy. And we were able to get analysis from people who have covered federal court cases like this. And then you realize the gravity. You realize like what this man is really about to, not only what he's going through, but what we're all witnessing. And so I think, thankfully, like you said, Terrence, we've been able to lean heavily on those experts. Michelle Rayner, who's an attorney here and a criminal defense attorney, who's been able to explain all this legal jargon.
Right.
Because it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. And I think we've been able to do our due diligence when it comes to this case, because we've been able to see the progression from the beginning when it was just a lawsuit being filed.
And laying out all the charges, because visually all we've seen from Diddy was the hotel beating with Cassie, and trying to understand as to how is that being played in the court of law when he's not being charged for any type of abuse charges or anything like that. So again, weighing heavy on our experts to kind of guide us through this case, and of course also visually relying on these court drawings. There was cameras were not allowed in the building.
So you guys have been covering this case, from the beginning. Yeah. Has there been a lot of support? Because I heard the gentleman on our video say, quote, "Free Diddy." Yeah, I said it, "Free Diddy." That's what the man said outside. So has there been a lot of support?
Well, if you go back
support for Diddy?
Yeah, support for Diddy, especially after that video was released.
It's tough. I don't. No, based on our comments in our on our shows, no, there has not been, because again, the only thing that we've seen was the Cassie Hotel video. You've heard of all the freak offs and the drugs and the prostitution and all of that. So I mean, for us to just hear something and just now as the family was leaving, departing the courthouse, hearing that support, of course, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that do support Diddy.
Yeah. So I think with the progression too, I think it started with like,
there's no
we don't
way.
know. Like, not Diddy. Like, there's no way. Oh, they're going after everybody. And because then, like Jay-Z got drugged and stuff. And like all these names were coming out. So I think in its inception, I think we saw from our shows some people like, okay, let's see how this turns out. Like, we talking about Diddy. We talking about the culture. There's no way. Then it was like, Oh no.
Yeah.
No. So to actually hear that, you're right. It was surprising to me. I literally had like a kind of an audible gasp hearing it, because we haven't heard a lot of that feedback. What was your take on it at its inception? Did you kind of relate to how people kind of viewed Diddy originally?
I mean, honestly, anybody can file a lawsuit. You know, I've been covering, court cases for a while. And, I always wait for them to actually go through with the testimony. And I try to wait until there's actually, some sort of evidence and documents. But after the video came out, where the world was clearly able to see this mogul, this great guy who has done so much for the community, but become this type of person who we saw on TV, just hearing that support, I was just, whoa, But it was shocking, because I never thought that he could. Listen, the man dated Jennifer Lopez, way back in the day. So I was thinking this couldn't have been. No. So it was shocking to see that video. So that definitely changed a lot.
Yeah.
I think it did. I think the prosecution is heavily relying on that video for sure. They played it so many times. That's one of our experts talked about. Matthew Lee actually said, because he's also an attorney, he said in his expert opinion, he thinks the prosecution could have rested after Cassie testified.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I was like blown away hearing that, because that to me just showed what took place in that courtroom prior to Cassie's testimony and after. So
the power of video evidence can't be overstated. And so, folks, we're going to be wrapping up here in the next few minutes, as more and more reporters are anticipating there being no post
grabbing their
deliberation interviews for today. They're grabbing their microphones. They're heading home. Any final thoughts here? I mean, the anticipation will be that tomorrow is a day where, I mean, really, we're on verdict watch all day tomorrow, especially now knowing that 4 of the 5 charges have been unanimously agreed upon by the 12-member jury. And then maybe this extends into Thursday. But your expectations heading into tomorrow, or what? We'll kind of go around the horn here.
Oof.
Oh, man. Well, I mean, the judge and the federal prosecutors, of course, Diddy's lawyers, they all want a decision, because this, will let them know what they need to do to move forward, whether to appeal, etc. So I believe the judge will be like, hey, let's get a decision.
I think we're going to have a decision by midday tomorrow. I think they're going to come in there because, unfortunately, they're going home and they're thinking about all of this. So once they get into the deliberation room, I think majority of the people are going to have their heart, like they say in the church, all hearts and minds clear. I think they're going to be all clear. The question is, will everybody be on the same accord? And I think that's what they're going to really be working at tomorrow. And I think also in their minds, y'all got to think, these regular people, these people sick of this. They're ready to go home.
They're ready to go home.
They're ready for 4th of July weekend. So of course they're not rushing the judicial system, but I think in the back of their minds, if they're that close, they're going to try to get this done pretty quickly.
I don't think it looks good for the prosecution team. That's my that's my prediction.
Why? Because the mistrial's in play?
From the charges that he was being accused of, the video evidence that we've seen, it just doesn't add up. And I just think that this is not going to go in the favor of the prosecution.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
well, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
We're waiting.
We'll continue to follow up. Again, like I said, JB, we have the guy, Matthew Russell Lee, who's been in that courtroom, solidified for tomorrow at 7 p.m. So we'll get his insight and see what he has to say as well.
Yeah, folks, really pay attention to the Rooted in Progress episodes that have been done. It's been fascinating, of course, as Deanne and Terrence have navigated this with such grace, given, of course, that there's so many complicated elements to this trial, and Diddy being a worldwide figure, of course, brings a lot of attention to the videos, of course, that Deanne and Terrence have worked on. I'll leave everybody with this before we wrap up. I think one thing that is going to be fascinating tomorrow is that what usually in standard courtroom procedure on a day of deliberations, the jury doesn't normally go to the deliberation room at the very beginning of the day.
Right.
Everyone's called into court, and then the judge then sends back the jury for the day of deliberations. It's like all right, everybody, we meeting for another day. So what the judge's tone, message, and how he communicates to the jury tomorrow morning, I think is going to be really fascinating, especially after, again, them basically being sent home for the day. How the judge conveys, let's get to a verdict, is going to be dissected, I'm sure, by all the courtroom reporters, and that will be interesting to watch that kind of trickle out into the media tomorrow morning. Something to look out for tomorrow morning for sure. For Terrence Middlebrooks, Ty Russell, Deanne King, I'm JB Buno. Again, a partial verdict has been reached in the Sean Diddy Combs federal sex trafficking trial. You can read more details on our website, WFLA.com, and the WFLA News Channel 8 team will have coverage, of course, throughout the evening and into the morning hours. Of course, you can see Deanne King tomorrow morning on WFLA News Channel 8. For our entire team, folks, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time here from the Stream Center to Facebook Live and YouTube Live. Thanks so much for joining us.